That temperature's getting hot, we take it outside. You run your mouth up in the store, we take it outside. I got my killers with me, you won't make it outside. Outside, cause we outside. Before the COVID had the mask and we was outside. The Glock loaded, extra mag and it's outside. There's one west for that bag and we outside. We outside. I got the world in the palm of my hand. One west sleeve stretch, do it live on the gram. Had a whole world viewing, click and subscribe. Had them niggas off the block, of them shooters, they want a job. I just put them on the payroll. When I get control them, I just mold them like they Play-Doh. Soldiers giving halos, trying to get up at them pesos. 40 cows send you out of space, Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, leave you all boxed up, all cause my delivery. I be on that prime shit, take you time to get with me. Got me like Vladimir, treat you like the Ukraine. Raid your little city, now you boating like Usain. Scope costs more than the rifle, I got new aim. Fresh kick, spit with the blick, not my shoe game. Used to have a dirty 30 tied to a shoestring. Now I got that Ruger 5 and 7, that's my boot thing. That temperature's getting hot, we take it outside. You run your mouth up in the store, we take it outside. I got my killers with me, you won't make it outside. Outside, cause we outside. Before COVID had the mask and we was outside. The Glock loaded, extra mag and it's outside. There's one west for that bag and we outside. We outside. That temperature's getting hot, we take it outside. You run your mouth up in the store, we take it outside. I got my killers with me, you won't make it outside. Outside, cause we outside. Before the COVID had the mask and we was outside. The Glock loaded, that mag and it's outside. There's one west for that bag and we outside. We outside. I don't talk Harley, be there when you call me. Send them Philly clippers at your head like a baldy. Chopper get to run down your block like a Harley. No, this ain't a big hog, this the big dog.
In your city swinging through the jungle like it's pitfall. In the water wading, marching to my cadence. Big burst of thunder in my hands like I'm reading. Shitty Mortal Kombat sounds, but I ain't playing.
Look 'em in the eye before the war like a weigh-in. I'm up in the AM, politicking movements with that Draco from the vid because it's proven. Waiting on my brother out of bid, he ain't do shit. That's how life go. Win some, you lose. Seen a little nigga beat a big nigga out his shoes. Seen that nigga come back, pull up with a gun strap, rob everybody outside, told him run that. We outside. That temperature's getting hot, we take it outside. You run your mouth up in the store, we take it outside. I got my killers with me, you won't make it outside. Outside, yeah, we outside. Before the COVID had the mask and we was outside. My Glock loaded, extra mag and it's outside. It's one west for that bag and we outside. Outside, yeah, we outside. That temperature getting hot, we take it outside. You run your mouth up in this car, we take it outside. I got my killers with me, you won't make it outside. We outside, and we outside. Outside, yeah, we outside. We outside, yeah, we outside. There's one west on them corners and we outside. We outside with it.
Yeah, on 44 shit, you know what I mean? Busy man. Look, when that shit drop, you step all the way on their neck, step on their neck and their head with that shit.
Friday, I ain't showing no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel, he nice but he don't show them skills, how I show them skills. He ride but he don't work the wheel, how I work the wheel. They mad, I'm too solid, circle tight, yeah, vacuum seal. No, they want my life, I ain't worried, I got rank for real. I got real soldiers, kill for me, nigga, watch yourself. They said you been in beast mode lately, you is not school them niggas like they baby Jody. Got it out the dust, now I'm too clean, don't know why they hate me. What you want out life, dawg? Guns and butter, baby boy. UPK top, dawg. Certified road runner. I'ma turn that econ line van to a damn tank. I got chopper stash in the attic like they had Frank. They had that shit on lock till I snapped on them like bolt cutters. You cannot play both sides, gotta choose your colors. See, I'm throwing that one up with that W, that's my blood, bro. Fine in. I ain't show no mercy, I'm gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel. I got time to kill. Hey, let's start that damn. I survived. They don't know how I did it. Got it out the dust, straight to high. Yeah, he's nice, but he don't show them skills how I show them skills. He rap the we got made circle tight. Yeah, back. They want my green word. I got Ray for real.
Practice, not a game, not the game that I go out there and play every game like it's my last. The game, we're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that? And we're talking about practice.
Best believe that I'm top 3. The only thing is I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Put me anywhere of and they wonder it's not me. It's beef, we strut a nigga block, that's chopped cheese. No peace, the butterfly sting him, that's Ali. You reach, I teach him with the handle, that's Kyrie. Machines you hook like a Roman, that's IV. You a sheep, I'ma go, it's a difference, so watch me. You weak, no punches, so block me. They mock me, I just show them how it goes. Try to stomach the thug life. They ring got the nose, bandana on the foe. Connected from probably the new this, so let go. Made for this, nigga, I eat bars and drink flows. Thinking you woke into your third eye peephole. Line for line, this shit too easy, it's like a free throw. Mastered the game too early, this bitch a cheat code. It ain't a game, these niggas lame. They bring a shame. If I'm with an officer, it's a number in his name. We ain't the same, you want the easy pass, tell him change his lane. Shit, I've been through the fire, you can't stand the rain, take an aim. Tell him runner, he can try his best. Drive a car named after me, that's why I'm in the vet. Lamping these niggas once again, and I ain't break a sweat. Number one at everything I do, that's why I'm one west. The Lord God of the dead, so when I die, coming back for my spot, so forever I'm top 3. Just tell him to watch this janitor with the mop stick. You gon' need a defensive lineman to block this. On point when I bomb shit, 10 for 10 I do not miss. I'm barking with a full bulldog, it is not mixed. They can see that my mind's sick, I don't write, I find shit. I don't like it, then I switch. If I touch it, it's diamond. Tell a bitch that I'm God sent. It ain't because my kicks is built like 5'6", 5'7", is my bitch. Dangerous, high risk, I lose it, get another one. You think I'm talking about a girl, I'm talking about another gun. We here now, hey look, it is what it is now. We don't fuck with the house niggas, we burn the crib now. I'm ahead now, and I they head now. I don't you think it's it, nigga, I don't fear clown. Silences make it sound like raindrop, that's a quiet storm. Get the job done in the view or get fired on. If you niggas standing for nothing, what you dying for? If you put real with real, that's how I was born. Walking this bitch ready for war, I'm in riot form. I want these niggas to see me flex, that's why I am armed. I shouldn't live in the crib, nigga, I should buy a farm to go through this shit so effortless. Top 3, only thing is I'm not 3. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is I'm not 2 and I'm not 3.
Hey, I'm just following orders. Let me get one of those slow motion pictures, bro.
You gotta shoot at 60 frames per second.
Come on, that.
They said when they hit that raw shit. These niggas claiming they boss shit. These niggas better move in coast shit. Cause if they make the wrong move, it cost shit. You see me, they like, ooh, keep on stopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say say they wanna hear that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move and coach shit. Cause if they make the wrong move, it coach shit. Coming up on my divorce.
I do it how a veteran be. You better than me. I'm Reggie at the edge of the key. It's all money, no honey. Think you settle and see you locked up, fucked up, and it's back to the streets. It's One West. You can check the residency. I reside with soldiers died on the soles of their feet. Cause there's death before designer. Ain't no coward in me. Cause I'm cold as a bitch's shoulder. You ain't calling a week. Get the cooking on this beat. Hope you like it well done. Got them killers rolling with me and they all red rum, red rum, red rum. Got you fuckers scared some. Get the banging on this beat till my fucking head numb. Black Glock, red drum, black and yellow air ones. Homie, you ain't got a vest. I suggest you wear one.
Told these niggas we was going up. They was doing a lot of talking, now these niggas ain't saying shit.
Feeling like a legend in this shit, lil nigga, I'm past veteran. Never feeling third, lil nigga, I'm past second. Guns, I gotta have them all like Ash Ketchum. Shot break a nigga ribs up like his wife left him. We all stepping, kill you with kindness cause I'm dead nice. That 5'7" put you 6 feet, not talking height. That judge giving out 5, but you doing life. These hands are rude GPS, I mean right. That's mean right, we build different, you know the vibes. And we stamped it authentic, we notarized. I keep a 144 because I know a cod. Noah's Ark, you know I'm with animals when we flowing by. We back again, no cap, when I'm with Cap again. Yeah, they say they want smoking, so we matching them. Everything righteous, so you know when we get back at them, you get hit up with a K, but no acronym.
They say they wanna hear that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move and coach shit. Cause if they make the wrong move, it coach shit. See me, they like, ooh, keep on shopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say they wanna hear that raw shit. Coming up on my divorce.
All right, mic check, mic check. All right, Shalom Israel with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, start out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohanan. The Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, as we already know, where we break down the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, our native tongue before our oppressor came and stole it, beat it out of us. You know what I'm saying? So we get into the scriptures and break down in detail how the language is spoken and how to read, write, and speak the Hebrew. So we're not gonna waste too much time. I hope all brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to give us courtesy salute to all the brothers. Shalom, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Brakathum. Shalom, Yahweh Shemar Latah Bashim Yahushua. Shalom, Yahweh Shemar Latham Bashim Yahushua. To all the sisters, I hope all my brothers, you know what I'm saying, been enduring in this truth, fighting them demons, of course, getting counsel. You know what I'm saying? Salakia. We're gonna get right into it. I hope, brother, you know what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, make sure you got your learning utensils on hand and ready. Notebook for sure. Make sure if you don't have anything else, you definitely need to have a notebook and a pen or pencil for this class so that you can take notes and retain information. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you have that. I would recommend having a concordance or Bible dictionary, on all the apps that we use. Brothers, the priest, I would advise you have your Bible Hub app open because, you know, just like last class, we kind of gonna continue what we was going over last class as far as the feast day was in Leviticus 23, breaking down the Hebrew pertaining to the feast of the memorial blowing the trumpets. So we was in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 23. breaking down the Hebrew, how to read and write the Hebrew, how to break it down. You know what I'm saying? So if you have any questions, right now is the perfect time to do it because we got this high holy day on Saturday or Sunday, this Sunday. So Sunday, if you're a priest, you are going to have to read the Hebrew. There's no getting away from it. You're going to have to read it. So now is the perfect opportunity to ask questions and make sure you have an understanding of how to read and understand the Hebrew. So now, if you have any questions, especially my brothers, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. Sisters as well, put it in the chat if you have any questions. But we're going to go right into exactly what we're going to be reading on Sunday. So, you know what I'm saying? Of course, Friday night Lashawan Qadash class is an important class, but especially because of the feast day that we have coming up, I would highly recommend brothers and sisters to pay extra diligence and make sure you get your questions in. So it ain't no rush, you know what I'm saying? If you got a question as we going through it, or if you have a question right out the gate, I don't mind addressing it, answering those questions, giving you a better understanding as we go through things, no matter if, you know what I'm saying, if we pass the topic and you have a question on a specific thing, or if it's completely unrelated to the Leviticus 23 that we're about to read. If it's completely unrelated, just ask that question. You know what I'm saying? I highly encourage it. I don't mind stopping, pausing, rewinding, doing whatever I got to do to help brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying, gain a better understanding. But, you know what I'm saying, we're going to get right into it, right? So last week, we got a little bit into the verses. So we was in Leviticus, again, chapter 23. And we started at verse 23 through, and I think we got down to 26 or 27. So we go recap what we, you know what I'm saying? This is where we left it right here. And also, just before we go on, Salak, give me 1 second. 1 second. Right now, give me a couple seconds. Right now would be a great time to just put some questions in the chat, all right? All right, slack you for that. 1 second, I'm gonna give y'all a little bit more time. So think about y'all questions, put them in the chat. We're gonna get right back into it. Also, I'm gonna just say this. Also, if you got any questions for like any Hebrew teacher or any Lashawan Qadash teacher or anything like that, whether it's myself or you know what I'm saying, any other zone, I would advise you, like especially if you're a brother, I would advise you to call that brother directly or message them directly. And you know what I'm saying, if you have a question that you want to be brought out in class, I would advise you, you know what I'm saying, to get ahead of that. So once we get into the class, we can automatically just address it right off the top. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna get right back into it. So we left off at verse, let me see where we leave off. Verse 27, right? So I'm gonna read it in the English, right? From verse 23, right? 1 second, bear with me. Salakia. Leviticus 23:23. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and holy convocation. Verse 25, Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. Verse 26, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of the 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. There shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. Verse 29, for whosoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. Verse 30, and whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in the same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Right? So that's talking about the feast days coming up as we went over earlier. We left off on verse 27. I'm gonna go back to 26 just for repetition, right? So verse 26, it says in the Hebrew, Salakia, it says in the Hebrew, Wayadabar Yahweh al Mashah la Amar, right? And we talked about last week that that's a phrase that's repeated a lot throughout Leviticus 23, or just the first, or in Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Exodus, you know what I'm saying, where Moses is introduced, right? Because the Lord is speaking to Moses and telling him, he's speaking through the people, or speaking through Moses to the people. So you'll see this phrase a lot. Wayadabar Yahweh al Mashah la Amar. You'll see that a lot because that phrase means, and the Lord spake to Moses saying. See that over and over. So that's verse 26. And the Lord spake to Moses saying. So just segues right into where we left off last week. So verse 27, just to recap, says, let me see. As a matter of fact, so we went into, so it's talking about also on the 10th day of the month. It's like, let me read it in English. So like, yeah, also on the 10th day of the 7th month, there should be a day of atonement, shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. Right? So let me see. So yeah. Let me see. Oh, Salakia. Okay, so this is verse 24. Salakia. This is the end of verse 24. So it's saying, Yahaya lakum shabathwan. Right? So as we went over last week, as we, you know what I'm saying, got broke down on the board, Yah meaning it, Haya be, so it be or it is in modern English. Lakum, la is a preposition that means to or for. The suffix ka, as you see here, means you. But when you add a ma behind it, it goes from ka to come. So it goes from you to you all, or y'all, right? So it is to y'all, lakum, plural, to you, plural, right? And then as we went over last week, we got Shabbat one, right? So this comes from a combination of a root word and a suffix, right? So Shabbat together is Shabbat, right? So it's talking about Sabbath, a rest, right? So Shabbat, right? So that's just in general. A Shalom warrior. So we got Shabbat, meaning rest, right? In general. But when you add one at the end, as we learned in past classes, it's Shalom of Christ, sisters. But as we learned in past classes, once you add one to the end, now you're making something a proper noun, or you're naming something. Right? So now Shabbat 1 is talking about the Sabbath, or a rest day, a feast day, right? A holy convocation, something that we're supposed to acknowledge, right? In the name of the Most High, and do, as the scriptures say, do no servile work in that day. Like it says in, you know what I'm saying? Like it says referring to the Sabbath, right? Like any Sabbath day, like on Saturday, you know what I'm saying? The Most High commanded us to rest on that day. So it's no different than on the Sabbath where he calls us to rest. There's also holy convocations and feast days where he calls us to rest and do no servile work in that day as well, right? So just gonna pick up right where we left off at. Let's see. Salakia, bear with me 1 second. Make sure I'm not skipping nothing. Bar album, yeah, Yasharala. Right. All right, so Yahaya Lakam Shabbat 1. It is to you or to y'all Sabbath or rest, right? Now moving on. So it goes on to say, right? Actually, let me do it like this. We got Zakar 1. Zakar 1. The Rawa I. What's going down?
Are those two characters next to the thug or after the thug? Is that what's rough?
Right.
Okay.
You said the two, both of these?
Are those both rough?
Live. That a little bit more clear for you?
What?
One time, correct. And just to recap, because we're gonna need this, right? Especially if we're gonna be able to move on to if we're gonna move on to or advance our knowledge in the Hebrew, right? We're gonna move on from basic Hebrew to more intermediate and compound our knowledge. we're gonna need to, or last week we went over the steps that you should take as you read in the Hebrew, right? And interpret in the Hebrew. So first step, I'm gonna put it over here just for review. You find prepositions, right? Find your prepositions. And for right now, if you don't have this in your notes, I will put it in your notes. But this is going to be something that's going to eventually, if you're, practicing and participating and reading, reading along during Sabbath services and all of that, it's going to become something that's automatic, right? The more you attend Lashawan Qadash classes, read the Sabbath service and feast days and all of that, it's going to become automatic. But just for review, I'm going to put it back up here. So we got step 1, find a preposition. See if there's any prepositions, if any at all. It's not going to always have a preposition. Number 2, you find your possessives, right? And what that's going to do as you're reading the Hebrew is going to give you step 3, which is going to isolate your root word, right? So you find the possessives in the beginning, or the prepositions in the beginning. We got right here since the beginning of the class. Find your possessives at the end, and then that's going to give you a root word. But sometimes you'll have a tense in the middle or at the end of your root word that will change the context or the tense of the word. So before you can put it all together, you'll have to find out what that tense is, right? And then you'll be able to, it'll do all these things is going to help you interpret what a phrase is saying, how tenses affect root words, how prepositions or possessives, any what you got, pluralizations, anything that's like in a category, as we talked about, any whether it's something's plural or not plural, feminine or masculine, whether we're talking about sisters or brothers. So just to recap, those are the steps. Those are steps you're gonna need to use because we're gonna need that for these next couple examples, right? So we got Zakar 1, right? So we'll go through this first example real quick just to refresh, and then we're gonna try to, put it into practice, right? So we got Zakar 1. So first thing we're gonna do, find prepositions. There are no prepositions as we look at our notes, as we look on the list. There are no prepositions. So we look for any possessives. There are no possessives that we could see in our notes. So that leaves the root, right? So now we have this, right? So we can assume that this is a root if it doesn't have possessives or prepositions. So after you find the root, then you would have to look for any tenses that affect the root, right? So just for an example, we have Zakar 1. Now, as we talked about in the last example that we just looked at, talking about Shabbat 1, we know that 1 at the end makes something a proper noun, right? So we got a proper noun at the end. So now we know that this is your root. This is your root right here, Zakar. And this is your tense, or this is your tense that affects the root word, right? So we got Za, Ka, and a Ra, making it Zakar. All right. And that word zakar just simply means to remember, right? So as it says in the scriptures, it'll be a Sabbath, a remembrance, something that we remember, right? Let's get the English right fast. Verse 27. Also, on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation to you. Yeah, holy convocation to you. Right? So this word zakar means remember, but we added one to the end, making it a proper noun. So this word zakar one is talking about holy convocation. Right? Right, Slakia, verse 24. Slakia, I got the wrong verse. Right, a memorial of blowing of trumpets. So now we're talking about a proper noun. So the thing that's being remembered is now a proper noun. So this is talking about a memorial, right? And we're going to get into the next root word, right? So we got tha, ra, wa, I, ha, right? Going through the steps, finding prepositions. So we got a possible tha, right? Right. So just for example purpose, so we're going to observe that, right? We got tha meaning thou or thee. So that's a possibility, right? And then at the end, we have aha, right? So this could be a tense that means something is feminine or serving something, or it could mean just her in general, right? So what you would want to do is you would assume that this is a root word. But if you look into the Hebrew dictionary, sometimes you might find that you might not find what you think is a root word. You know what I'm saying? That's why we have these steps. So if you go through the steps and you come to an error, just for an example, and this is a perfect example right here. So you might come to an error, look up this word. Let me double check because it may. Bear with me. Okay. So in this case, this is a root word, right? So we got rawa I. Right? So going back to the steps. This tha right here means thou or thee. Right? This ha means that there's something, it's either feminine or something is serving something. Right? Rawa I, according to your Bible dictionary, would mean to split the ears with a sound or sharp or shout, slacky, for alarm or joy. Blow an alarm, cry aloud, right? So you get the gist, right? So for context, we got blow, alarm. So the or you in modern English, you blow an alarm. In context, we got Zakar Wan, Tharawa I, right? So in memory, in remembrance, you will blow an alarm. English translation or in the scriptural translation, that's where you get memorial, Zakar Wan memorial, memorial of blowing of trumpets, right? So we're gonna do the same exact thing for the next word, right? What's good?
I didn't know some for tense as well in that word, or no?
You said say that
For that second word, we found the root word. So then how we know what tense it is?
I'm not. You said we found a root word, so how do we know what tense is?
Tense it is in.
Like, what do you mean?
What tense is in?
Okay, so
Do you go by the first word? Is that what you go by?
so the phrase, like sometimes, okay, so when I say tenses, right, we're talking about past tense, present tense, pluralizations, categorizations, and just like in any word, you're not always going to have a preposition, a possessive. You're not, and it's the same for tenses. You're not always going to have like for example, wa to make it present tense, a ya to make it past tense. So in this case, it doesn't have Salakia, tha wa I, or Salakia, ra wa I is just a root word. Okay, I see what you're saying because of the wa. Is that what you're asking?
I thought that every word would have like. Which I see what you're saying now.
Okay.
The first one or the second one didn't have. Well, the first one didn't have no preposition, no possessive. So,
right.
Like you say, every word doesn't have all four.
Right. Right. But now that's something that's good that you brought that out though, because I completely missed this why right here, because we went through the steps, right? That's why I find the root word first, because it alleviates that confusion of maybe mistaking a character that's part of the root word as like a tense. So excellent question. So we got next word, right? We got ma, qua, ra, a. Right? So let me see, let me check the chat. So now that we went through some examples, right? Do you want to, anybody in the chat also, if you're more than welcome to participate, ask questions, or, you know what I'm saying, try to take a shot at breaking things down according to these steps. You know what I'm saying, get that practice in, right? But now that we went over a couple examples, just to refresh, you want to try to give this next, or just follow after the steps and give this next one a shot?
Awesome. First one's cup, right? Cup. C-H-A-A. Cup.
Live. So this will be a cup right here. All right. Let's see if I can write this one a little bit more dramatic. So that little, okay, so ma, qua, ra, a. So first step, find prepositions. We got any prepositions?
Yes. The month of from.
Right. So we got we got ma, meaning of or from. Correct. possessives.
No.
Right? No possessives. So, with that being a preposition and then it not having any possessives, now we're at the point of
The root word.
right, and we can assume that where's our root word at?
Flora.
Right, right. Let's see, it's a lot. So we can assume that this quara is a root word.
How would you spell it? The Q. How would you spell it? Flora.
So we got wa, ra, and you have a ah. Now here's the thing. I'm gonna go ahead and erase these steps right here. We should already have these, right? Now the thing with with these two characters, right? So you got and then you got I. So it doesn't necessarily have the ba, ga, da, ha, wa, right? That vowel sound at the end. So when it's in a word, it causes sort of a break. So since there's phonetic, like again, like this ain't how you spell it, but pronouncing it, it would have this sound right here, the ah sound. But since ah is just and ra ends with an ah sound, you would pronounce it ra ah.
Also, in actual spelling, would it be two A's?
Yeah, in the
And no H, or
no, it would have the ah. It would be, this is one character. So when remember, this is just how the character sounds.
right.
So we just have the two English characters side by side to make it visual of how you would pronounce it when we first learning. But in pronunciation, that's just how. Okay, so you would pronounce ah, right? And okay, for example, let me see, like in Zakar, right? You got za, ka, and ra, right? But since you have that connector at the end, you drop the ah sound off of the last character. So instead of saying zakara, you say zakar, right?
Right.
But since that ah sound, like you can't drop the ah, because ah is the sound itself. So you will pronounce this ra ah because there's nothing to drop at the end. Does that make sense?
I don't know how to say it. I was just wondering how to spell it. Like, how would you spell it? If I was to write it out, how would I spell that?
Like in English?
Right.
Okay, no sweat. You would say qua, qa, ra, ra, ah, ah.
Okay.
But I do want to emphasize though, these are just
What sounds?
right. Yeah. So it like whenever I hear like how do you spell it in English? It kind of like
Yeah,
because it's like
it wasn't supposed to be in English to begin with.
exactly right. Yeah, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? But I understand what you're saying. And it's the same for I too. Well, I, right? Because this again is just how it sounds. So it would be the same deal. Like say it was quara I instead of I, you would pronounce it quara I.
Right.
It wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? There might be some cases like the word ride in the Lord's Prayer, which means let me think. Ride, let's go. There might be some cases. I think even that is pronounced ra'ai, but we say it so often, we comfortable. We just kind of say ra'ai, we connect it together. But I, because it doesn't have that sound of drop off at the end, it creates a break with these two letters. So that's something to remember as we run into new words, and we're gonna see more examples as we continue to as we continue to build our vocabulary. But so we got ma quabra I, right? Of or Salakia, quabra I, Salakia, ma quabra I. So we got of or from, and now we have a root word here, right? Of course, this is where we would go to. This is where we would go to the dictionary, right, to get that root word. Or now, if you're reading from the concordance, or Salakia, if you're reading from the what's it called, the Bible Hub, or if you're reading from the Greek Interlinear, because of technology, you can just click on the, you know what I'm saying, the concordance code. It'll provide you a concordance code, and it'll do all of this for you. Like it'll separate the root word for you, so you don't have to do all of this separation. But you know what I'm saying, it's good to just have the tools too to be able to look up the root word and see how words come together and make sense, or how possessives, prepositions, and root words come together and make things make sense. So I see you looking, so I'm gonna give you a second to check it out before I give it to you. All right. Yeah. And Most High in Christ, He brought your concordance too. It's a great habit to, you know what I'm saying, get used to using our tools that you know what I'm saying, that we've been talking about from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So, brothers and sisters online, I would also encourage you either have a physical concordance, just as a reminder, a physical concordance with the Hebrew dictionary, or have it in your phone. You know what I'm saying? So you can always reference it and get comfortable with using the tool. Right? Let me see. I'm gonna get there with you too. So like, actually, I got it right here. So I think that's, what's that, a high thing? It'll be you almost walk around. I think it might just be the page right before you get there too, just to refresh. Okay. 712. Yes, yes. And it'll have a few. It'll have sometimes it'll have a couple different definitions that might mean the same thing. So what does 7121 mean? Or what does it say?
Prior to name two Israelites.
You reading 7121?
Right. That's all it gives me.
Right. Let me see.
This is based on the
That's interesting. That's interesting. I should go straight to. Okay, I see. Okay, you might have to go a page to 712 because we're in 698 or a page after this a lot. Let's find so we'll turn the page to the going the opposite way, Salaki, because it's in English, so we read it left to right.
Yes, it's in the quote.
Right, yeah. The next page.
Oh.
Yeah. So when it gives you a reference concordance code, I would follow that concordance code. So in I think it was like 6980, and it said in reference to 7121, you just go to that concordance code that they gave you to reference, and that should give you 7121. Right. Right, exactly. So 7121, we got to call out, call forth, call upon, to cry, or you get the point. 7122, we got what does it say? To encounter, maybe a different context. 7123 is similar to 7121. A call, Salakia, corresponding to 7121. So it gives that 7121 as a reference to call out, to address by name, to be Salakia, but used in a wide variety of applications. Call, cry, read. Right? So general, right? In a general context, in this particular context, right? Wara'ah means to call out. Right. So as we learn, so now we got the prefix over from call out. Let me put the concordance code up here too. 7, 1, 2, 3, right? The call out, right? So we got over from call out. Now we learned in previous classes that when you add a ma to the beginning of a root word, it'll a lot of times change the root word completely, right? So in reference to an example that we use all the time, we got shapat meaning judge and mashapat meaning judgment, right? So Qara'ah meaning to call out. Ma Qara'ah is a calling, or let me see. It's a calling, right? Like the scriptures say, I can get a better marker on.
To call out from or something?
Right. Or it's like you said it.
Like to call out from?
No, so okay, so
Is that right after this word? So this is all one phrase?
yeah, so it's a verse it's part of the verse, right?
Okay.
So we got Zakar which is memorial, Tharawa I to blow an alarm, and Makwa Ra'ah of or from a calling, or since we added this ma, it kind of changes the word. So like any example that we've been using for a while. So Shapat, judged. Ma Shapat, it technically means of judge, but the word in English is judgment. So when you add that ma to the front, it changes the word completely, right? So technically, this translation is of calling or of call out. But once you add that ma, the root word goes from call out to goes from call out or calling to a convocation or rehearsal or assembly. So we're being during these feast days, during these holy convocations, we're called to rehearse something. So the Passover is a holy conversation or convocation, Salakia. Coming from, so that when you look at that, it'll say Makwa Ra'ah, also describing the Passover, meaning a convocation or rehearsal, right? But it comes from the root word call, because we're called to rehearse this, right? So we got convocation, rehearsal, or assembly, right? And you know what I'm saying? Like it makes sense, because I mean, we're not deciding, like we didn't just decide, let's, you know what I'm saying, let's do this. Like for example, like the oppressors holidays, you know what I'm saying? They got a million holidays. They got a holiday for every day of the week, right? Because every time they think of something, like they big toe itch or something, they like, this is National Big Toe Itchy Day or something, like something crazy like that. Like they got Best Friends Day, yeah, National Hot Dog Day, Taco Day. Like they, you know what I'm saying, they make up, you know what I'm saying, holidays for every day of the year.
And they change them too.
Yeah, yeah, like you know what I'm saying, like because they're making it up as they go. But this is a calling from the Most High, right? So the Most High is calling us to do this, to have this rehearsal. So that's just to you know what I'm saying, help us understand the, you know what I'm saying, the context and where the word comes from. All right, so we're being called, and we know that we're being called because there's a punishment for not answering a call. So this convocation comes from a calling, or where we were called out, right? So Zakar, so like it's Zakarwan, Tharawa I, Makwara I, memorial of blowing the trumpet, right? Or memorial of blowing, right? Blowing the trumpet. Convocation, right? Or Salakia. So just to make it practical, Zakarwan, Tharawa I is memorial of blowing the trumpets, right? or you know what I'm saying, literal translation, blow an alarm. Back then, their alarms were trumpets, right? So it's the Karwan, the Rawa I, memorial blowing the trumpets, a convocation or a rehearsal or assembly. Does that make sense? Okay, most of correct. So we got Makwara'i, convocation, rehearsal. What kind of rehearsal? What kind of assembly? Or what kind of convocation? It's a holy convocation. So we all know that the Hebrew word for holy is what?
Qadash.
I'm right. One time Christ. Give brother a hand. Qadash. So Makwara'i Qadash. Holy convocation. That's how you would say that phrase together. All right. So we all good here, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, most time first. Now for the next couple, I'm gonna let y'all try to take a shot at it, trying to break it down, right, and walk through the steps that we've been practicing these past couple classes, and all throughout this one, right? So some of these will be things that we already saw. Some things will be a little bit new, but might be something that we see that's new. But if we just follow the steps, finding that thing that's new will be easy. You know what I'm saying? All right, so we got all right, y'all wanna volunteer to give it a shot for the first word right here? You said what? Call, right. Okay. No sign of Christ, which means what's the word? So we you guys. So we got in the we did the Hakat a couple weeks ago, right? Call Makala, Wakal Hakodam. So Makala meaning sickness. What's good?
You know to my call?
Yeah.
It means all.
Damn right. Right. Most High Christ. Get that brother in. Right. So we got call. What was it? In the Lord's Prayer, Lathan now come, give us bread. Call your womb all day, right? Call your womb all day. Call Makala, all disease, all sickness. Call Hakwa Ha the womb, all or Ha the Wasalaki, Madawa Salaki. Call Madawa, all disease, right? Call Kaza, all sick. I wasn't trying to use that example, but you know what I'm saying. Point is, you know what I'm saying. This is something that you know what I'm saying we use a lot of. So call means all, right? So we got all, and I'm gonna do us a little favor because this is a new word right here, and this could be a little confusing right here. But I'm gonna just go to it, and then I'm gonna bust it down, right? So this word right here is malakat, right? Ma got ma la laki. Select. So this word right here by itself is a root word, right? So this is why I'm just putting it out there. This word malakat means work.
Why wouldn't it be Mala Akon? Mala Akon.
Malakat. That is an excellent question. The way it's spelled in the Hebrew, it seems like okay, let me think if I could think of an example. But it looks like in the Hebrew, these two characters are pronounced together. I just had an example at the top of my head where this happens with another word. Remind me if it comes to my head, I'll try to bring it out. But these two are pronounced together. A ma, a ka, for whatever reason. For the specific reason, I'm not 100% sure. But this is just, you know, as we was talking about in past classes, there are general rules, but some don't follow the exception, or that some words have exceptions, right? But if I could think of that example, if it comes to my head, then I'm gonna double back and revisit that. But this right here, this word malakah is work, which is where the name Malakah Yah comes from. The name means the Lord's business, or the Lord's work, the work of the Lord, right? The Lord's business. And that's where that word comes from, right? Or that name comes from. Slacky. Let me make sure something. Salaki, bear with me 1 second. So we're gonna double check something before I move on. Okay, Salakia. Okay, that example just came back to me as I was looking for that. So we got, I don't think that this is something that we went over, but real quick, I'm gonna just throw this word out there too. So, or no, I'm gonna use a simple example, right? So we got, and we're gonna see this in this verse too. So we good on this, right? So we got Salaki. So we got we know what this word is, right? Right. Meaning what?
Power.
Right. So this is pronounced like Allah, right? It's pronounced separate. Now you also have, and we're gonna see this in the scriptures also. Let me see if I can find it real fast. We're gonna come up on it, but I just want to address this real quick so we can understand this word. Or no, Salakia. So it was in verse 23. So remember how we was talking about the phrase that's going to be repeated throughout Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Exodus, because the Most High is talking to Moses. Wayadabar Yahweh al Mashah La'amar. So these two characters next to each other, Allah, depending on the context, it could mean power, authority, but sometimes it's pronounced together, all, and it could also mean two. So in the ancient Hebrew, it'll have the connectors to indicate how to pronounce it, but in the what's it called? The Syrian Hebrew, it doesn't have those connectors. So you'll just have to observe for the context. But that's just an example of where usually you'll see you'll want to, like you just pointed out, you'll want to pronounce it mala'akah, but sometimes the connectors will be in a different place. Now, usually, in usual cases, you'll pronounce it that way, but sometimes the connectors will change the word completely. So I'm not gonna not to get off a topic, because we're gonna get into that root word in the next class, but I don't want to like overwhelm and like, so just so we can retain the information. But rakah, right? Let me see if I can find this word. So rakah, ra, wa, cha, those three characters side by side, I believe that word means spirit, right? So in English, it will be spelled, give me 1 second. In English, it'll be spelled like raw, like raw, cha, because the the ra and the wa are connected, and then you have a cha at the end. But there's another word where the ra and the wa aren't connected, but it'll still be ra, wa, and ka next to each other. But because that connector isn't there, then it becomes the connector moves from here to here, so it goes from rawaka to rawak, because now these two are connected. Does that make sense? So sometimes words can have the same characters, but the connector won't be where you expect it to be. Let me see what that word means. We just believe it was in the either the Hakak or in the Lord's favorite things, in the list of the Lord's favorite things, which we're gonna get into that also. But does that make sense though? With the connectors? Okay, Most High Christ. You find that word real quick before we move on.
There's no real way of telling when it changes over.
Well, there is. You can either look at the ancient, which we don't have very many opportunities to do because it's mostly you'll be reading in the Assyrian, unless you have a really old document like the Decalogue stone or the Los Lunas Decalogue stones, or you have like the what's the another one, or like something that's really ancient. So that's one way because it'll have the connectors, or you could just rely on context. And that's usually the easiest way. Like whether you're reading, regardless of which version of the Hebrew you're reading, the context will give it straight away. So, and I'm gonna give you this example. What? Here. What? So the word rawak can mean rooms or a space, like rawak, like this is a room or a space. Rawka is like a spirit, like the spirit of the Lord, a spirit, or let's see. Well, Rawka refers like a spirit, like the Lord puts his spirit on you. He gave let's say he'll put a spirit or breathing life, right? Giving a creature life, right? Rawak is a room, but it's spelled with the same three characters. But you'll just have to look at context. And another thing, like, okay, so like that's where the steps come in also, because if we go through the steps with this word, we got ma, which we would automatically assume is what? A preposition, meaning of or for. And then we have tha at the end, meaning so like it could mean categorization, like we're talking about, you know what I'm saying, categories, like fathers Abba. Abba is fathers. So if you go through those steps, you would assume that la'ak is a root word. That's what you would want to assume, right? But if you look up that root word, you're not going to find a root word for that. So once you go through the steps, then you would have to start over, right? So like, okay, this isn't a root word. Since ka isn't a word either, right? So you just start from the beginning and just look the word itself into the dictionary, right? And that's how you would find, you know what I'm saying? That's how you would find malaka, right? So that's why I just started off like with just giving it straight to you, because sometimes it's not, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes it takes a little bit more diligence, right? So where we at? So we got I, ba, da, ta, right? So you just want to give it a shot before I.
Position wise.
You say you don't see any prepositions, right? How about possesses?
Her is one feminine.
Right. So we got.
It could be her or it could be female.
Right. Well, her is feminine, but so we got, it's either feminine or it will mean
Her.
right. Well, her is feminine, but it could, the suffix ha can do two different things, to where it can either make it feminine or like, okay, so I'm gonna give you this example that we used a couple weeks ago. Shalom is what? If you add a ha to the end though, it becomes shalama.
Shalom.
And that's what, I don't. If this is not in your notes, it's okay. It's just something that we went over real quick as we were talking about this subject in the past class. I kind of brushed over it. I believe that was the class where I went over Shalom and how that, you know.
Oh, okay.
But what we want to, sometimes the ha can make a word feminine, especially if you're using a name. Absolutely. But sometimes if it's, for example, like paired with a masculine word, like the word Shalamah is King Solomon's name, right? So what's more, Salaki? Nothing more, you know what I'm saying, masculine than you know what I'm saying, the ruler of Israel. You know what I'm saying? So his name having Ha, in this particular context, it doesn't make it feminine. His name means, I believe, peaceful or servant of peace. Like in his service as a king, he created peace. You know what I'm saying? He brought kingdoms together. He settled some disputes. He brought peace with his rulership. So that ha can be feminine, but if it's used in a, depending on the context, it could also mean that one thing is serving another, right? And that's pretty much for all the what's the word, Salakia? The what you would call feminine context or tenses. For the most part, I think 12. Yeah. Okay. But for the most part, for any tense that you would call feminine, it will be in a nutshell saying that one thing is serving another. So, like for example, I'm using Malak, king, Malak Wath, kingdom. Wath would pertain to something that's either feminine or something that's serving another. So the kingdom serves the king. So that's something that you want to keep in mind with when you see what's the word? Possessives or suffixes rather that imply feminine. Right? And you'll know whether it's feminine or whether it's just something serving another thing by context. Right? So as you read along, like let me see. As you read along with either the Bible Hub or the Greek interlinear or whatever, like it's hard to get context. Well, I don't want to say hard, but sometimes the easiest or usually the easiest way to get context is from the scripture because the definition is going to have several different meanings, but the scripture is going to have the context of that particular word and how it's used. So in this context, because we don't know, we haven't revealed it. We haven't revealed the context, right? So it could be feminine. It could be a word meaning feminine. It also could be something serving another thing, right? So we're gonna find out whether it's feminine or something serving, right? So you said there's no preposition. We have a suffix here, so we can assume that this is the root word. So how would you pronounce that? Do you want to give it a shot, or you need a second?
The way the word sounds.
Yeah, like just the root, the word.
I buy. I don't know. I would
Right. Okay. So that would be right. Okay. So the root word would be ibad. You put it together, ibada. So you were correct in both, but the entire phrase is ibada. The root word is ibad. Right. And the word ibad means it's a verb meaning to serve. Right. So the ha at the end to make it ibada, it turns this word it makes it from serve to servile. So it's talking about this word right here is describing the work. So like we know that it's not unlawful. Like you would the fake Jewish man, he would lead you to believe that it's unlawful for you to, you know what I'm saying, heat your home or turn on your lights. So what do? They hire slaves to do simple things like that, cook for them, you know what I'm saying, put something in the microwave. Not even realizing that they're breaking the Sabbath because they're having a servant do servile work. So this word is describing the work. So on the Sabbath, you know what I'm saying, whether it's a holy convocation, feast day, or just the Sabbath in general, we know that it's, you know what I'm saying, it's not unlawful for you to just start a fire or turn your lights on or cook something. That's work. It's work to cook, but it's not servile work if you just want to feed yourself. So this word ibada is describing the manner of work. So servile work. Right? Does that That makes sense?
Yes.
Then you do. Okay, most time correct. I'm slacking. Let me erase this. Create no confusion. So, scripture started with Kal Malakath. Kal Malakath Ibadah. All servile work. Oh, here we go. La'ah, right? So we know what this word means, la'ah, right? Yeah, no. So all servile work or do no servile work, right? Or any salakia. So we got all. This call is all or any, right? Self-explanatory. Any or all work that's servile, no, la'ah, no or not, right? Right, not what, right? So servile work not brings us to the next phrase, right? We got I sha. Wow. So we got ta Aisha wa. Right? Going through the steps. Find preposition. We already know that the preposition is at the beginning. So ta meaning thou, right? Then we got a potential possessive at the end, wa, meaning his or it, right? Depending on the context. So now that we isolated the preposition and the possessive, that's going to leave us with the root word in the middle. This root word here means to, that's a lot, to do. Aisha, to do or make, right? So you put it all together, thou or you in modern English, you, that's a lot, do. You do it, right? So based on the context, we know that the uses of this wa at the end is it instead of his because it just wouldn't make sense, right? So thou, you, do it. Or, so in the context of the scripture, all servile work, la'ah, not do. Or thou, or you don't do it, right? You don't do any servile work.
So that's the first one was the first character of the.
Yeah, so let's do. Right. Ta Aisha wa. So all servile work, you don't do it, right? Because it's just like any Sabbath, right? Like any Sabbath, we don't do any servile work. Now, again, if you want to kindle a fire, heat up your home, you know what I'm saying, make you a plate or something like that, it's not servile work. But if you were to, for your slave, say if you had a business, right? Like you wouldn't be able to, you should close your business on Saturday. You're not to have your employees work on the Sabbath day or on this particular feast day, the memorial blowing of trumpets. But good to get rid of this right here.
Yes, sir.
Look, yeah. All right. We're gonna do this one last one, right? Before we get on up out of here. So this one might be a little bit tricky, right? Wahak or Rabathum. All right. So as we up in this point, or up until this point in the scripture, is saying you will do no servile work, right? And go back to English. You will do no servile work on the Sabbath day or on on this one. Just read verse 25. So Leviticus chapter 23, verse 25. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer, which they, it's like it. Ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. Right. So we covered the ye shall do no servile work therein part, right? But ye shall offer an offering, right? So we're gonna handle this word. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 characters in this word. Looks a little bit intimidating, but you know, just going over the steps. You know what I'm saying? Any intimidating word we can bust down real easy. And this might be a little bit tricky though. A little bit tricky, but we just going. So you want to give it a try? You want me to just?
I'll try.
Okay, one time.
Preposition is and.
Right, so we got a wa, right? Meaning and. Slash.
And the possessive. What's up between there?
You said possessive. It's
Thumb or the thumb?
you said so. Like, say that again, because it sounds like you saying it sounds like you saying it correct. I just want to make sure.
Oh, there. Or the possessive.
Right. Or what else did you say?
Or that thumb could be also the possessive. That's
So this right here, this is why I said it might be a little bit tricky. So this right here is actually a combination of a preposition and a possessive, or a preposition and a plural. So you got tha, meaning thou or you in modern English. Thou or thee, right? And then, like for example, in the salute, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shabrak a thumb or a tha would be the singular, a thumb would be plural, like you're talking to multiple. What's like it?
there.
No, not quite. Yes, actually. No. Okay, so while ma can be a possessive or used as a possessive, it can also be used to pluralize.
Okay.
All right. So in this case, it's being used to pluralize. Or actually, let me see. I don't want to. Slacker. Okay, so it's that slacker. It's that possessive, right? So this is their masculine, but this is wild. This is a masculine and plural because it's saying there, right? So you got thou, you got thee, you, and then the ma at the end makes it y'all or you all, right? Talking about multiple people. So So that just leaves this right here, right? Or actually, Slovakia. This is also a preposition. Now, this one also can get a little bit tricky, but it's just something that you have to train your eye to recognize. And we'll get into the reason why, but for now, I just want to give you this understanding. So a lot of times we see wa and ha next to each other. If you read it in the English, it'll say and shall, right? So that will be the English translation. But we know that this is a possessive, or this is we recognize it as a preposition. But we see waha together, it'll say shall, right? You'll see that in the scriptures a couple times. Like especially as we read through the feast days, right? It'll be something that repeats itself over and over and over. All right. So we got and shall. Well, we gonna break it up, and then we gonna get to the root word, and then we gonna put it all together, and then it's all gonna make sense. So that leaves us with Korab, right? And if you're reading through the Bible Hub, right, or the interlinear, or things like that, it'll isolate the root word for you to help things become a little bit easier to understand. So that Korab means to, just for the sake of time, to come near, approach, bring near, right? Depending on the context. In this particular context, bring near as an offering. So you take your offerings and bring them near to the altar. You bring them to the altar. You draw near to the altar with an offering. So you got draw near to offer. So waha korabathum and shall, or and you shall, because the possessive is at the end, you or y'all, because there's a plural, you or y'all draw near or make an offering. Waha korabathum. Right. Now the thing about before we close it out, the thing about this phrase is it's important to understand the foundation. So like the prepositions, the possessives, plurals, the tenses, how to find a root word, all the things that we've been practicing up until this point. It's important to get a base foundation of knowledge for those things so we can move forward to more complicated things, or not more complicated, but expand them. We can expand our understanding of the Hebrew, right? But before we can move on to that, we have to understand these foundational things, right? So we're going to close it right there. But after the feast day, I think, of course, we're going to go into, the, you know what I'm saying? We're going to read the entire Leviticus 23 on Sunday. But I may go into the Day of Atonement because it's right after the memorial blowing the trumpet. So we might break that down. And then after that, after we get through that, then we're gonna just review everything that we're gonna need to understand and have in our notes so that we can move on to the next concept. Right. So we're gonna finish this out. We're gonna review a couple things that we've learned all the way, and you know what I'm saying, compile a list of like I'm gonna call it a master cheat sheet or a master, you know what I'm saying, notes, right? And then we're gonna get into how phrases are formed, stems, how stems change when certain things or prefixes and suffixes are added. Also, we're gonna get into different, like for example, okay, I'm gonna use this as an example. So we looked up here, Aisha means do or make. But we also know that if you look at your prepositions, da, the prefix da means do or make also. So a lot of these prefixes also have, I'm gonna call them for now long. We have long spellings to say these too. So Aisha is do or make, da is do or make. We have I or I am, which is ah, and we also have anya to say the same thing. Right? So we're gonna get into that also. But before we get into that, we're just gonna go through with the feast day, and then we're gonna review one more thing, or we're gonna review one more time before we move on to the next concept. All right. But we're gonna end it right there. The water for the brothers and sisters online and in class who endured, you know what I'm saying, with the class. Just make sure we're continue to take notes, take good concise notes, and revisit those notes so that we can, you know, these things could be second nature to us. Referencing our resources, like the books, the resources that we have, referencing those will be second nature as well. And we'll give a courtesy salute to the brothers, the sisters. Shalom Yahal Bashim Yahushua Brakathum to all the brothers. Shalom Yahal Shemar Latah Bashim Yahushua to all the sisters.